Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind podcast.
Welcome to this special Grappling Rewind episode on location at ADCC in Las Vegas and CJI, the Craig Jones Invitational, at Las Vegas. We are going to recap both of these events that have happened over the last 3 days that we've watched here live in Vegas. As always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, to my co-host,
Miranda.
How you doing, Miranda?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty great. I had a phenomenal time. We got most of the Grappling Rewind team out here to watch jiu-jitsu for 3 solid days. We have watched an enormous amount of jiu-jitsu.
We have.
Caveat, this is a live show. So normally our shows are pretty well put together. We try to do a lot of research beforehand. We break down matches. We have some talking points for the matches we want to cover. Usually we'll cover tournaments in their entirety for either finals matches or rounds. This is a live show for us. We walked out of ADCC about, an hour and a half ago and are doing this recording now. So we are going to talk about basically the biggest points, biggest matches, biggest upsets, biggest exciting moments from essentially what is about more than 150 matches and about 24 hours of live jiu-jitsu that we've watched. If you are looking for the normal show that we do with the analysis, with sort of the breakdowns and generally the much more well put together and structured show that we do, this is not that show. This is a live show. So if you like the Grappling Rewind or you want generally breakdowns and recaps on a weekly basis, that is what we do. You can subscribe to the podcast, and normally the shows are much more put together than this, but we want to talk about this because had a very exciting weekend, and there's some phenomenal matches to talk about. We are very raw just coming out of the event, and so let's talk about the best moments from ADCC 2024 and the inaugural Craig Jones Invitational. Now we know potentially there's going to be one in 2025 as well.
He said he didn't say every year, but he said 2025.
He said next year.
Yeah, next year.
Which is interesting because, so if you don't know what happened, there were 2 competing tournaments essentially that happened this weekend in Vegas. Craig Jones ran his own invitational tournament the same weekend as ADCC, took a bunch of athletes, some of the top athletes from ADCC, in order to champion for athlete pay. They paid the winner $1 million, and now we know that's Nick Rodriguez won his over 80 kilogram division, and Cade Rotolo won the under 80 kilogram division. Both of them won $1 million. Craig Jones and Gabby Garcia also had a super fight, as well as Fian Davies and Mackenzie Dern had a super fight. This ran Friday and Saturday, and ADCC ran Saturday and Sunday. So we bopped between both of the events this weekend.
We did.
It was a lot of fun. It is, I think exhausting is the right way to put it. Every ADCC year, that in itself being 2 days is exhausting. Add another day onto that. But we were treated to some absolutely phenomenal matches. Honestly, I kind of want to get right into it. We're going to break down both tournaments, all the finals matches of all the tournaments, the best matches that we found, the biggest upsets that we remember. But we are definitely going to miss some matches here and there. We're going to miss some big moments because, again, there's 150 matches that we just walked out of.
Yes.
The best match I have ever seen, I'm going to say it now, Cade Rotolo versus Andrew Tackett.
Yes, it definitely was.
All the years we've done the show, since we've done the show every single week since 2017. That was the best match I have ever seen in the submission grappling tournament. It was 3 rounds of some of the most insane pace I've ever seen an athlete put on.
Yeah.
And Cade Rotolo towards the end of the match, when he won the match, it was a semifinals match, but not even a finals match for $1 million.
Yeah.
He said it best. It's like these matches only happen when both guys are ready to go.
That's
when
true.
both guys you can.
And both are willing to engage.
Yeah, and both are willing to really we're in Vegas, lay the chips down and kind of see where they fall. We had so many back and forth scrambles where Andrew would go for something, and Cade would look to counter, and Cade would go for something, and Andrew would look to counter, like guillotine snapdowns, Darce transitions. We had back takes. We had, at a certain point, we had Cade trying to flip over and jump in both this match and in his finals match with Levi Jones-Leary, just throwing everything he possibly could at the problem and looking to really kind of create, I think in his mind, the most exciting match because he knew that Andrew would bring that energy to him too.
Yeah, he he backflipped out of having his back taken, basically.
Yeah, and a couple times in the Levi Jones-Leary match and the finals match. But if you watch one match from this weekend, that is a match you go back and watch. It's free on YouTube, and it was such a wildly entertaining match. It really shows you what when two guys at the highest levels, and Andrew Tackett and Cade Bertolo are, two guys right now at the highest levels of the sport, both 21, by the way.
Oh, okay.
That's insane that we have so many young athletes, which is very funny in contrast to ADCC, where we had a bunch of returning champion like Lovato and Cyborg and Wagner having the best tournament that they've had in
quite a while.
In quite a while.
Yeah.
And that, you can say that's because there were guys in CJI or not, but it is very funny the contrast because we had some young athletes in ADCC also show up and look phenomenal, and it's really interesting to kind of see the contrast between the two.
Yeah.
But both those guys are 21. We are absolutely going to see these guys go at it again. It's a match, honestly, we've been talking about seeing for a long time now. Ever since Andrew Tackett wasn't able to face Mika Galvão in the Who's Number 1 final, we were like, I kind of want to see him versus Cade as well. Like Mika, I want to see the Mika match, but also it made me think of other guys that have that style. Like Mika lays it on the line. Cade lays it on the line. Andrew Tackett lays it on the line. The match was absolutely as good as we could have hoped, and I think was the best match I have ever seen. Definitely the best match I've ever seen live. Yeah. Which is a huge, we've covered thousands of matches on this show. We've seen thousands of matches live. We've commentated hundreds of matches at this point. I've judged, you've refed, I've judged hundreds of matches. I think I've judged 748 ADCC matches. This is the pinnacle of what the sport has to offer. I think it usurps Gary Tonin and Paul Harris on that Polaris card all those years ago, as just a phenomenal match. So that's me gushing over that match. Yeah. That was my highlight of the weekend. Wasn't even for $1 million.
No, but it was a great match, and it was a semifinals match. And it was kind of sad that one of them had to lose at that point.
Yeah, it kind of was.
Finals.
Now, for his troubles, Andrew Tackett did get Fight of the Night bonus, which I think was 30 grand? 50 grand.
50K.
Let's talk about other bonuses on that card. Luke, it was 20. Okay. Most exciting fighter. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
So we got my wife and Nick in the background here, gonna help us fill in again because we are an hour after ADCC. Full caveat. So this is also why I have no voice. I apologize for that. Next week, if you like the show, subscribe. We do this show every single week. My voice will be back. We'll be back in the studio.
Maine has been screaming "my guy" probably all weekend.
My guy, jiu-jitsu.
Jiu-jitsu.
These events always reinvigorate my love for this sport.
Just stand up. Which
is also kind of partially this weekend why I didn't submit for media credentialing. Because historically, ADCC 2019, I got media credentialed and backstage interviews. I love doing that. I didn't do it in 2022, and I didn't do it this year because I kind of just wanted to experience jiu-jitsu occasionally as a fan and get to yell in the crowd, jiu-jitsu, and my guy.
And it's a little harder when you have those media credentials because you do have to behave when you're down in front. And
really, I found that I would love to do it again. I'm definitely in the future will do it again, but I found that I missed a lot 2019, and when we did this show, there was so many matches that I missed because I was backstage, I was interviewing guys, and I think that was a great experience, and I look back really fondly, and I'd love to do it again. But it was cool to be here as a fan and just be able to lose my voice yelling for the sport that I love. And if you're thinking about coming to ADCC or thinking about coming to a CJI or thinking about even coming to a local super fight that you've never gone to,
and
go to one. They're fun.
And I think even in any of the seats in that stadium, you would have had a fun time because in CGI we did not spend money.
We spent $50, and then day of they were half off. We spent $50.
We were way up in the rafters, and it was still a great time. Yeah.
In ADCC, we spent a lot more money. We had phenomenal seats for ADCC, and both week, I can't complain about either event. Both events ran phenomenally well. ADCC took to heart, I think, a lot of the feedback we gave and other folks gave, the community gave in 2022. That event ran quick. It ran on time. It was it moved through. They removed a lot of the ceremony stuff that was neat in 2022, but just ended up being too long. And this event ran tight, and it was fun. I mean, we're out of here at 7 p.m.
Yeah, which was relatively early.
Yeah, and I left feeling man, that was a great night a couple of days of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah,
not
it wasn't.
Man, I want to get out of here.
It wasn't the huge. The last time it was long.
We almost relieved to get out of here. That was we left and everyone was in good spirits and excited. And I was I'm really happy that, they made those changes because I cannot wait for 2026. Yeah. So.
Except if they could change the food policy, that would be great.
I would love.
If we could bring in our own snacks and our water, that would be.
The events are really long. It's a long couple of days. Please, or at least give me a water fountain, so we're not spending $7 or $8 on a water bottle because we're dehydrated and need water. So the events are long. So let's get into that was the first match I wanted to talk about. Where do you want to start here? I actually didn't text you my notes, did I?
No, you didn't.
I'll send you those now.
We'll go into one of my I told you moments.
So if you think about that, I want to caveat for people listening to the show. We are going to bounce between ADCC and CJI just because this is a live show. Normally, this is not how we construct the show. We run event by event. But for this one, it's live. This is how we're going to do it. So please keep in mind that we're going to bounce between the two kind of as we have talking points. Normally, it's not done like this, and we apologize. But it's going to be easier for us tonight to be able to do it that way. So I'm going to just caveat that.
Okay. I want to talk about the moment that made the entire stadium get up on their feet and scream like a crazy person. And that
was... Andrew Tag and Capitola?
No, and that was when Merigali lost.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so the Daisy Fresh guys are super popular. If you don't know, they have a great series on YouTube. I think
if anybody would have won against Merigali, everyone would have gotten excited.
Merigali and the New Wave camp are kind of embracing the bad boy persona.
Well, I mean, Merigali's always been a bad boy ever since he gave Lovato and Sanji the finger in IBJJF and got...
Even before then.
Yeah, but even then. But, that was when everybody realized...
A lot of guys, he's easy to root against for. And Pixley, in contrast, that whole team, the Daisy Fresh, the Pedo guys, they're very beloved figures in jiu-jitsu. Their story is great. And we had Pixley and Merigali. First round?
No, second round.
Second round.
Merigali already he won his first match, and then this was the second because Pixley had I forgot who Pixley had first round, but
there'll be a lot of that today.
But he goes to Uchimata Merigali, and Merigali does the thing that we always tell you never to do.
For this reason,
which is you don't stick your arm out.
And post. You don't try to beat the Uchimata. The Uchimata is a big inside hip throw.
Yeah.
He does a Harigoshi, not Uchimata. He goes across both legs to hit it.
Does he go across both guards?
He does a big throw. And Merigali, and what you can do, and what you'll see super high-level guys do sometimes in jiu-jitsu is they will post and they'll bounce off of it, and they'll counter or they'll do something else. So they'll end up on top from a Harigoshi because you can bounce through it. In the case of Merigali, it looks like, and what we're kind of guessing, is it tears his shoulder.
Yeah.
Because it looks like his elbow's okay. Day 2, he's in a sling, and he's no longer beating. He's out of the tournament. They kind of hoist him off the mat, and they're carrying him and his arm off the mat. But this was early in the match with Pixley.
Yeah, it was. But it's as he lands, he kind of rolls and he gets head and arm choked, which I think is...
Was it in the same sequence? I thought it was a later sequence.
No, it was immediately afterwards. He lands.
Oh, really? Okay.
And then after the throw, he lands, and then he almost has to roll himself.
No, we're good. I literally jumped half a bottle of water onto the ground.
He just drops a bunch of water.
Yeah.
Merigali tries to catch himself. His arm goes under him. Then Merigali has to try to roll because he can't tap at that point, and his shoulder's dislocated. He can't... Yeah. He can't do anything, so he has to roll. And as he rolls, Pixley grabs a head and arm choke. And
beautiful Dar setup too. And Pixley's long armed and lanky.
And you see Merigali tap him almost immediately, and that was the weird one because we were like,
Merigali he tapped kind of quick. I was like, that was weird. And then you see he's laying there, and it was
then he's laying there, and then we're sitting there, and we're like,
is he playing it up? Is he? And then you see the replay, and you're like, ooh, that's an injury, which is unfortunate because we kind of Merigali came into ADCC last time as had 4 no-gi matches or 3 no-gi matches or something.
Pretty much.
And we were like, how's it going to do? Very well is the answer to that question. And so we were like, okay, let's 2 more years in the New Wave camp with the champion, Gordon and Big Dan, and Bodoni is the champion, and big guys coming up like Luke Griffith. And he has a whole team of guys that are really on the level there at New Wave. Let's see how he does. Look good in the first round and then dislocates his shoulder. So we still have a lot of questions about Merigali, but that crowd was so excited to see Pixley win.
Yeah.
It was great. It was just a moment. Again, you saw the Pedo guys just jumping up.
I don't think everybody at first also realized that Merigali was hurt.
I don't think any of us realized.
I think we all thought that he was just butt hurt, and that's why he wasn't getting up. But that's the first time. I mean, when's the last time Merigali got submitted? By anyone.
Has he been submitted in Nogi?
I don't think so.
Maybe I don't think so. No. So this is the first. But again, so it's it has a little bit of an asterisk to it. But even
in the gi, when's the last time we saw him get submitted in the gi? We haven't.
Purple belt.
Yeah.
Najmi flying triangled him at
Yeah.
like Purple Belt World that
Yeah.
one time 8 or 10 years ago or
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, very uncommon. A very hard guy to put away.
So I think we all just got excited because it was Marigali getting subbed.
And Willie was also like
You know.
Pixie. Like, Pixie's a great dude, and like that dude, that whole team is just supports their guys in a way that I really like to see
Yeah.
put into the forefront of the
But
community.
Marigali was subbed by a purple belt.
He was. Is he purple belt still?
He's a purple
That's
belt.
crazy. I love the Jiu-Jitsu belts when we talk about it at the ADCC. He's like, he's a purple belt. Like, no, he's not. Like,
Yeah.
he's a brown belt. No, he's not. Like, Josh Saunders is a new black belt. Yeah, like different kind of like
Yeah.
different world level guys. Owen Jones. We'll talk about him in a minute here. Like brown belt. You're like, that was not a brown belt performance, good sir. So, what you have any other big moments you want to run through before I go through my enormous list of stuff I
for
have?
the people that listen to the podcast regularly, Polish Mateus, ankle locked, didn't ankle lock. He armbarred Gary Tonin.
That was a wild sequence too, from like a
Yeah.
really interesting underhook armbar,
Yeah.
because Tonin had his hand far posted on the hip, and then Mateus inverts underneath him
Yeah.
and throws up this really uncommon armbar.
Like same side, not like
Yeah.
not like the cross side armbar that you generally see out of a lot of people. But the arm that was posted kind of on his hip location, he just kind of grabs it and freaking goes.
And it's a really uncommon. There's a lot, again,
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons I love ADCC. You get big upsets, and you also get a lot of really unorthodox submissions because generally guys are so sharp, they're not usually going to get hit with the normal stuff.
I mean, you know what he was going to try to do.
Yeah.
Which is go into the legs.
And that was a fun match up in the neck, because
Yeah.
you saw him and Gary both like playing with the legs, and I was like,
Yeah.
ooh, it's cool, because Gary will very much play into the legs with you, because Gary's one of the best leg lockers on the
Yeah.
planet. And then Mateus goes like, oh, I got you, thinking about the legs, into the arm. It was, I think, on the weekend, one of the greatest kind of like combination performances of like, I got you thinking about the legs, and then I went upstairs for the arm.
But yeah, I was happy to see that.
Yeah,
Because we all love.
We've been big fans of Mateus Szczynski for a long time. So let's run through the finals here.
Okay.
And then let's talk about all of the other stuff that was phenomenal at the
Okay.
tournament.
Sounds good.
Unless you want to do it the other way and run through all the fun stuff, but I think we do the finals
Okay.
first. So let's go back to CJI.
Okay.
Because we're going to bounce around today. Nicky Rod won $1 million.
He did. He easily won $1 million.
Dude, okay, so
He subbed his way all the way
well,
through.
let's talk about why he. So on the opposite sides of the bracket, we had Nicky Rod and we had Victor Hugo.
Yeah.
Victor Hugo has 3 wins over Nick Rodriguez,
He does.
and a recent win over Nick Rodriguez, and a pretty definitive. Like, Nick Rodriguez really has a hard time
Dealing
with the
with Victor
long,
Hugo.
rangy guard of Victor Hugo. That was not a problem, because in the first round, Lucas Kennard, who was the late replacement, the guy that replaced Mason Fowler,
Yeah.
because Mason Fowler had a back injury, heel hooks Victor Hugo.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, everyone went,
I think Victor Hugo, truthfully, it was his first match, and I think he didn't.
he wasn't warm
he
or
left,
something.
He left his foot hanging. I mean, really, in all honesty.
I watched the replay because that was Friday.
Yeah.
So we've had a couple of days to
I think it was
actually
just
see that
one of
again.
those, like, you're not as concerned as you should be kind of situations.
Because
And
it's Lucas Kennard. He's a guy.
yeah.
He's a late replacement. He was an ADCC late replacement. He's the last guy in the tournament.
And he won Oceania Trials, which is generally not the strongest
yeah.
of all the trials.
I mean, we'll talk about, maybe that's less of the case nowadays, but generally speaking, like, maybe he kind of overlooked him, but he takes out Victor Hugo in the first round, and it was like, okay, well, Nicky Rod suddenly is the clear front runner on both sides of the bracket now. And so in the finals, he had Felipe Andrew.
Yeah.
Who eventually, and so both sides of the bracket go. We get to the finals. Felipe Andrew, and then Nicky Rod looked like, we were kind of curious because Felipe Andrew has a really great trap triangle game. Go back and watch him do it to Keenan at Euros 2020, Hulk at Thurkos Grappling.
And we watch him do it all weekend at CJI.
Yeah.
Him throw up triangles, I
mean, he threw it on Dano Kennard.
diamond guard.
High guard.
High guard.
High guard.
We had some arguments over the weekend over what that guard is actually called.
Well, it was really like on the big wrestler guy, Daniel
Kirklevic.
He threw that up over and over, and Kirklevic showed us that, like, jiu-jitsu's not real.
Yeah.
He would just posture out of it, and he
We
gets
saw
past.
that. We actually saw that all weekend with people posturing out of things that they shouldn't really be able to posture out of.
We always kind of forget sometimes these world championship level tournaments, because all the rules that are available for the rest of us
Yeah.
kind of don't apply sometimes at the highest levels in the world, where guys are just like, I don't want to get triangled, pop out, like,
And they just like stand up.
or like,
and
hey,
they
he's
just fall.
he's in half guard, I'm just gonna force this out. You're like, how did he do that? And that was one of the moments. But we've been seeing Felipe Andrew have a ton of success, like using that, and then Nick Rodriguez goes, yep, I know you do that. Body lock pass over first round, take your back, chair sit, choke, $1 million.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, I don't think it was shocking it was shocking that they had a briefcase with the money.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, oh, he actually got the money.
Well, when the event was supposed to start at 3, I believe, on Friday,
Mm-hmm.
and around 3 o'clock on Friday, here comes Craig in a bulletproof vest and camo pants and 2 briefcases with $1 million in each,
And they're labeled plus 80 and
Yeah.
under 80 kilos.
walking around with them.
And that was a crazy move. So
that was
he
how
wins
it
that. He gets set. And then so he wins that. And then one of the most interesting things of the weekend happens. He goes, hey, we're in like a betting city. Gordon,
Yeah.
$1 million bet. My million, your million. Let's do it. And I went, that's wild. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
it'll happen, but that's honestly, that is kind of the money in the bet. Like, Gordon has been doing bet matches since he had no money.
Yeah.
Since he talks about doing bet matches for like $500 when he had like, didn't have $500.
Yeah.
Whereas like he was betting money he didn't have on himself. This has been a career for entirely of Gordon's career. It's how he's gotten a lot of matches early. And for this kind of money, this is the kind of money that Gordon Ryan will maybe go like, yeah, I'll take your $1 million. I can beat you. He's beat him before. Really, really interesting wrinkle into the kind of Gordon Ryan and Nicky Rodriguez saga.
Yeah.
With how Gordon looked this weekend, like, I'm honestly a lot more interested in that match than I was even the last time they met at the Fight Pass Invitational. So it was interesting. Anything else? Any other thoughts on the finals match there for that?
No.
So let's move on to kind of, I'll say it, a less interesting finals match.
Yeah.
Levi Jones-Leary
Yeah.
looked phenomenal this entire run. He comes out of ADCC, he comes into CJI, and we're like,
I was really impressed he didn't really get as many bolos as I expected him to.
he went for the feet.
Yeah.
Like, he footlocked everyone. Like, he started out with Roberto Jimenez, footlocks Roberto Jimenez, which was something we kind of thought about. It's like, okay, Jimenez historically has had issues with flex. He's improved a ton.
Yeah.
But Levi Jones-Leary's been with Lachlan for a year now, one of the best footlockers as well. Like,
But
probably
we
has
also
a pretty
didn't
good
see
footlock
we
game.
also didn't see anybody do kind of what PJ Barch did with him.
I don't think many people can do. We saw PJ Barch and Levi Jones-Leary met at Polaris in the finals of the semifinals of the Polaris GP, and PJ Barch really shut Levi Jones-Leary down with wrestling.
Yeah.
I don't really think, especially with how PJ Barch looked this weekend, I don't think many people are like physically or technically able to do that. So it's it's one of those like, oh yeah, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
If you have the wrestling of PJ Barch and
But Levi
not a lot of-
Jones-Leary has no wrestling.
No,
But it's
that's
hard to get him to stand. so it's
specifically one of the
truthfully-
reasons he went to CJI is because he was like, I don't want to open wrestling.
Yeah.
ADCC is going to make me wrestle. I don't really want to do
Yeah.
that. I'll do this instead. And he was kind of very open about that. And he's been very open about that actually for a while because he bolos guys and he goes for the legs. And so he ankle locks Roberto Jimenez, he ankle locks everyone else, and then he runs into the finals and he runs into Cade Bertolo.
Yeah. And then when he gets he can even invert under and get to the back, not the full back, but more of like a crab ride on the back.
Like a crab ride back take
And
where you don't have the hooks in
Yeah,
fully.
and from the crab ride, Cade just decides he can backflip out of it.
Dude, he
He
did,
just decided he could backflip.
and that was in
out
the
of it.
first round. And then the subsequent rounds, when Levi takes the first round, he splits the decisions the second round. And then in the second and third round, Cade kind of went, okay, Levi Jones-Leary is almost impossible to pass.
Yeah.
Like, he's one of the best regarders in the world, and he plays this great bolo
He
game.
never really does pass him either.
No,
when you
not
think
really. He
about it.
gets north-south, but
Yeah.
Levi's always back in there.
Yeah.
And he kind of gets past one time in one of the later rounds. And then he figures out, okay, he wants to Kiss of the Dragon me. And so what Cade Bertolo starts doing is he starts stepping into Levi Jones-Leary's, like, essentially Kiss of the Dragon, and then doing a backflip to try to end up in north-south.
Yeah.
And he kind of starts getting close. It was some of the most successful, like, attempts that he made was when he was doing that. It kind of also, I think, took some gas out of Levi. He's like, okay, well, this guy's really going to be hard to handle now because he's willing to throw everything at me that he possibly can. And I think, honestly, that activity and like those sequences are what win Cade this tournament.
Yeah.
I think Levi had the better like constructed game plan and was more consistent, but overall just the aggression and the activity.
And he really stayed on the same game plan for the entire event.
Yeah.
Because as boring as at sometimes most people thought it was, he stayed with exactly what he was going to do and continued to do
That's
it.
been when Levi Jones-Leary won Spider Invitational. Like Levi Jones-Leary, he is one of the most known quantities in jiu-jitsu, but the problem is if you can't be the best Berimbolo guy in the world, like you can't beat Levi Jones-Leary. And so it's such an effective game plan that you have to be a guy like Cade Bertoldo that can like deal with the technical aspects of Levi Jones-Leary's game and also physically just overwhelm it enough where it's like, hey, the judges go, hey man, you did enough.
This was the third no-gi event Levi Jones-Leary's ever done. Because he did gi, and he was barely into when he went against at Polaris.
At Black Belt, I think. Yeah, he hasn't done many.
At Polaris was like one of his first no-gi matches was that tournament.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And then trials, and then, so for him to be a newly embraced no-gi guy, I mean, he did a pretty good job.
Looked phenomenal. I mean, almost won $1 million off this. And it was close. Like by the end of it, I was like, we think Cade wins this, but it is extremely close. So it was phenomenal. Cade and his brother are going to... Cade had some great words for the whole event. And his brother, he's like, we're going to take this back to Costa Rica.
Yeah.
He goes, the only guy in this tournament that could have taken me out is better than me is my brother.
Yeah. It was very sweet.
It was sweet and it was cool, but it was also like those two guys compete together and like have been together. They're twins. And Cade has been the more successful brother as of recent. Like, he's the ADCC champion. Yeah. He leaves ADCC plus 76.
I can't remember who won in Worlds.
Ty did. Brown Belt Worlds, okay. Ty beat him. Yeah, really, really awesome match. Yeah. But which is funny because Cade brings it up kind of in not that exact match in the interview, but he's like, the only guy that can take me out is my brother. And I was like, man, that is kind of might be a little bit true.
Yeah.
It was wild, but it was not as exciting of a match, but I think Cade made up for it early with the best match I've ever seen with Andrew Tackett. All right, so let's go on. We had a couple other super fights on this. Let's keep going on CJI for now. Let's talk about Ffion Davies and Mackenzie Dern.
Yes.
Ffion Davies and Mackenzie Dern, super exciting match. The 2013 ADCC champion, Mackenzie Dern, taking on Ffion Davies, who I think in consensus is one of the best, if not the best, female grappler pound for pound right now.
She is.
First round was very much sort of a feeling out process for Ffion. And then the second round, she went, I'm going to win this right now.
Went, I'm going to throw you.
She
lands on top of you.
Beautiful judo throw, like which is, again, Fion's background is a judo background. Beautiful outside hip throw. And then just lands on top. And then armbar or rear naked choke finish? I think it was a rear naked choke finish.
I think it was a rear naked. Yeah. No, it was an armbar.
Was it armbar?
Because it was a triangle armbar.
It was triangle armbar over the head.
Yeah, over the head.
Yep. And then she adjusted a couple of times.
Yeah, I had to think about that for a second.
Again, we have watched more than 150 matches this weekend. I apologize if we get some things incorrect here and there. Beautiful finish. It was not really that surprising thing to any of us. I think all of us had Ffion a very clear, heavy favorite just because Mackenzie Dern's been in the UFC. She's out doing other things. You know, even though Mackenzie's young, she's, I think, 31.
Yeah.
Or, like, you know, around there. Most of her grappling success came when she was, like, 19, 18, 20, like, around that era. So she's really been in MMA nearly 10 years, and Ffion is at the top of the grappling sport now. And so it wasn't really surprising for us, but I did love that Dern hopefully put a lot of eyes on the event, put a lot of eyes on female jiu-jitsu, and then Ffion, in her post-fight interview, did a really great job of, like, going, hey, women want an event, too. We want to be held on the same plane. We want to have the same events.
But like we said, you know, we all discussed when we were there, if they made a full bracket for CGI women, I don't know what women would be in the event in the ADCC.
If they ran at the same time, it would be. Again, I would.
You'd be taking.
I really hope
lot of the
that they
away.
don't run these two events at the same time again. Like, it was cool once, but we did get kind of diminished talent pools in both events because, like, well, Miko wasn't in CJI and Cade wasn't in ADCC, and so it's like, watching both events, I don't really think there's much of an asterisk. They're just different events.
Yeah.
But as a fan, it kind of sucked because it's like, well, I come to Vegas to go see the best guys, the best women in the same event, and they're in different events. And so I really don't want it to be at the same time again because we don't see the best people.
Yeah.
We're missing some of your standouts. But I would love to see a woman win $1 million in grappling. That would be phenomenal. I would love to see them held to the same thing. And then Fionn, in her post-fight, kind of spoke about that. And it was great. Any other thoughts on that match and that kind of finish?
Nope.
Let's talk about another female champion. Gabby Garcia took on Craig Jones in the first intergender match. It's been a match like 3 years in the making. It finally happened. Craig wins it in the second round via rear naked choke. I care really less about the match. That's kind of the outcome we most expected for the match.
Yeah.
But what I loved about this match was the reception that Gabby had at the end. Because Gabby has been the butt of many jokes for many years, for like a decade.
Yeah.
People like shut on her jiu-jitsu, they shut on her, and that entire crowd was on their feet, like, and like cheering for Gabby.
Yeah.
Like during her like pretty emotional post-fight interview when they were talking to her, like the entire crowd just started like chanting Gabby, Gabby, and she stopped, and like everyone had a moment because the entirety of that stadium was cheering for and championing for her. And that was great to see Garcia like finally get the recognition of like, yeah, she really has been a great champion. She really has been someone that's pushed the sport forward for women's jiu-jitsu and women's grappling. And like, it was great to see that. Rachel was, my wife was out in the actually concession area during her speech, and she said, yeah, I was literally, not figuratively, the only person in that concession area, like other than the workers.
Yeah.
Every other person was in that arena cheering for Gabby.
We all wanted to see that. See that event in its entirety and see what would happen.
But it was great. Just like the result, I don't really care that much about. It's kind of what we expected. But it was, to me, it was like really heartwarming to see that whole community go like in this moment, recognize and appreciate Garcia for what she has contributed to the sport, and willing to go out and do that match, and have a match with Craig Jones like that. And even she brought up in the thing,
and play along with it all. Deal with it all,
and not go to her Hall of Fame ceremony to ADCC to have this match at this event, and also. She got paid. Yeah. And I love that. I love, like, we started this show in an effort to highlight events and athletes that were paying athletes and supporting the community. And it's awesome to see Gabby Garcia both get the recognition in that arena and get a lot of money.
Yeah.
So it was great to see. I don't want to see it again. It was a great.
They said they're going to do it again.
I do not want to see it again. I have no interest in seeing it again. But I loved that we saw it and she got that moment, and it was just a really great moment. What could have been not a great moment was really this great moment that it was wild to be in that room experiencing it with Garcia.
Yeah.
So, any other thoughts on that?
Nope.
All right, so let's move on. We had, let's see, where are we going to bounce to?
We bounced to the finals in ADCC, which
let's
were today.
bounce to the super fight. You want finals ADCC?
We can talk to Super Fight, but I wasn't there, so I can't tell you.
You went to CJI.
I went to CJI during the first Super Fight, so I was not there. Actually, I think I was actually at In-N-Out eating a burger during that Super Fight.
It was the decision had to be made first day, and I was like, I'm going to go to the whole thing for ADCC.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that a little later then. Let's talk about finals. Let's talk about men's and women's finals for ADCC. Let's talk about start off with my people. The under 66 kilo division for the men. We had a rematch of Diogo Hayes, Baby Shark, when they had a banger remix of Baby Shark's song that he walked out to that I loved, and taking on Diego Pato.
Yep.
Oliveira, and that's a rematch.
Diego versus Diogo.
Which we knew coming in to record this show was going to give us problems after 3 days of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. It was the animal fight.
It was.
The duck versus the Baby Shark.
But what was cool about this was this is a rematch, and a pretty recent rematch from Who's Number One.
Yeah.
Baby Shark had the title for Who's Number One, and Pato took it. And Baby Shark got injured in that match, and that's kind of why Pato took it. But he was also going on to win that match.
We need to stop for a second and also speak about how all of Milky Galval's guys were wearing their belt.
They've been doing that for a little bit.
Yeah, but they all wore it for the entire event. All of them.
And Baby Shark was the only one that would come off, and he'd go, they
took it off of him at one point.
Well, because it fell off once, and he took it off.
Yeah.
And then the other time, I think in his Absolute match, which Baby Shark did Absolute, which is awesome, Declan Moody took him out, and we kind of expected that. But it was cool to see again. We had almost every champion in Absolute. They all wore the belts. In ADCC, you can't grab the belts. You can't grab the clothing, so it's weird. But it's from Lute. They leave a background, and I don't love it, but I also kind of like the ADCC just goes, hey, man, you want to wear
We
it?
did see
We don't give a
Wagner,
shit.
I'm almost positive, ask
Yeah.
the question of
Because he was in the final with Mika at
of
77.
Kenny Grabbit.
Yeah, which you can't, by the way, but Wagner's going to be Wagner and ask, which I appreciate. Like, that
He
dude
should have
knows
just
the rules.
grabbed it, and then once he got yelled at for it, been like, "Oh, I'm sorry, didn't know."
Wagner
Didn't
Hosha.
know.
So this was Pato looking very good, going for a lot of different leg attacks. Like, when that's what Pato did.
Leg-a-talks?
Leg attacks. I am running out of voice. I'm looking at the recording here. I'm running out of voice more quickly than we have matches, and I'm like
Yeah.
kind of concerned
Well,
how far we're gonna get before
we'll
my
get
voice
through
just
finals,
peters out.
and then we'll
Do the fun matches.
from there we'll go.
So,
We can always go back through this at a later date.
yeah, we'll probably do a full recap when we
Yeah.
get back to Baltimore. And Pato looked great.
Yes.
He was in on Diego's legs, a couple like deep heel hook attempts that Pato was trying to counter, that Baby Shark was trying to counter, and then suddenly something changed.
Yeah.
And we saw Baby Shark just like hit a beautiful pass into head and arm, and then submit Pato with
Yeah.
a head and arm in the finals, and now is the 2-time returning under 66 kilogram ADCC champion, which is wild.
Yes.
I love to see and also, it reminds me when we watched Baby Shark in 2022.
Yeah.
The narrative going into that, and the narrative, a lot of the coverage and our coverage for that event was Baby Shark's too small. He's
Yeah.
not going to be, like we were talking about Maisa Bastos and Baby Shark, kind of in the same vein of like, they're undersized for the divisions, they're not going to be able to do it. To be wrong twice, I love it. I love that like he has proven like, hey man, yeah, he's like not the biggest guy in that division,
Yeah.
but he is so skilled and he's so technical that he can submit in the world finals of ADCC versus a guy that's beat him before,
Yeah.
that he's had tough matches with before, and like that was really cool. Any other thoughts on that finals match?
Nope.
Awesome.
Move into the under 77. We had Micah Galval versus Wagner Hosha.
Which is like,
Who knew Wagner Hosha would make it to finals?
dude, and honestly, looked really good. Like we had Lovato, Wagner, and Cyborg,
Yeah.
all guys over 40. Which historically, this is a young man's game. Like Baby Shark's like 21.
Well, unless
Kate-
you're a really super heavy, like you're in the heavier,
Yeah. Right.
brackets.
And we see that in MMA as
Yeah.
well. Like typically the older guys, like 36, 38 in
Yeah.
MMA, like they still have some power and some gas. We don't usually see it with guys like Wagner Hosha, who is historically a 77er.
Yeah.
Last ADCC went up to 88. He medaled in 19. He medaled in. Did he medal last time?
No, he did not.
Did I
no,
know?
he did.
He did.
He did because I remember us looking into it. He took like
Bronze.
Bronze.
I think
Yeah.
he took silver in 19, bronze, and then again moved back down to 77 and be in the world finals at like 41 or 42 years
Yeah.
old, and looked honestly kind of as good as ever. What I loved about Wagner's entire performance for the weekend was he just looked like a veteran
Yeah.
the entire time. Like he knew the rules, he knew what he had to do, he knew how he had to play the game, he knew how to win in ADCC, and be it a large margin or a small margin, like he knew what he was doing. And at no moment in the weekend did Wagner ever not look like he was having the best time of anyone at the event.
That's true.
And like you could see the game plan for Wagner working.
Yeah.
Like even in the Nico Galvao match here, it doesn't go his way, but you saw that he knew where he was supposed to be. He knew where he wanted. He knew what he wanted. He knew what Mika brought to their exchanges, and he knew that like, hey, I can't contend with this guy physically. I can't out-scramble him.
And he knew to be a bully.
Yeah.
To be a bully and counter-strike off a few things. Counter-strike off some of the takedowns. Or just try to push him out, push him out,
Yeah,
push him out.
and kind of stay in his face,
Yeah.
like, and really with like the old veteran thing of like, hey, I'm just gonna like be in your face.
And sometimes you even saw him when they would go to out of bounds. Like he goes with Elijah Dorsey is one of the earlier matches that he won. They land Elijah Dorsey's on the bottom, he's on top, and you see him like kind of like hit his shoulder and be like, hey, we need to get up and we need to go to the center again, and
Yeah.
kind of like
just imposing in a way, and like in an authoritarian kind of way that's just like
in like a dad way.
yeah, he's like, hey man, I've been here before. That's
Yeah,
what I do. Like,
yeah.
yeah, you're just in the match with him, and it's his match. Like you are in a Wagner Hosher match, and like you're just there with him doing his thing, and it was really interesting to watch him. He's always done that, but I think this ADCC, more than anyone I've seen recently, was like he just felt in control of these matches in a way that was really unique, that you don't see a lot of grapplers ever be able to have the comfort to do, where it's like kind of Gordon has the same thing where it's like, this is my match, but Wagner will also, like, not just with his action, but like he'll tell you, like, we're here, like he will just lead you through in a really interesting way that I've come to a point where Wagner's my wife's favorite grappler, but in a really interesting way that I found like fun to watch and be a part of, like one of what will probably be one of his last ADCC runs, but we've also been saying that for like 6 years, so maybe I'm wrong about that, because he got silver and looked phenomenal. Mika Gava did rear naked choke him towards the end of the match, but up until that moment, Wagner looked very in that match in a way that, had you told me that Wagner was going to have an incredibly competitive match with Mika Gavao 6 months ago, I'd be like, maybe if he like stalls him out, but he was in it with Mika, and I was again wildly impressed with Wagner.
Yeah.
And it's awesome to see like the veteran guys coming out and having great performances like this against Mika. Any kind of other fun pieces on the match you want to touch on?
Nope.
Let's move on to, I've lost my place in my notes.
A rematch in 88.
Under 88 kilos.
J-Rod versus Giancarlo Bordoni.
So this was...
Bordoni.
Your voice is going
no
too.
No R. No, I was trying to not put the R into it, and I was trying to be...
You want to say it, the announcer, Giancarlo Bordoni.
Yeah.
He said every name super Italian, and I loved it.
Yeah, he made some names that were...
Adele and Giancarlo's name were like the best.
There was another one, and I forget which it was, but there was another guy in a bracket that was definitely Brazilian, but he definitely made him sound like he was
super
Italian.
There was a couple of them.
And I was like,
huh,
there's some super Italianness in there.
He had
and
some
I don't know
flair
if
on the
like
names.
the announcer just thought they were Italian and just didn't.
Because the announcer initially, I think
Yeah.
day one, it seemed like he didn't know some of the names, because Kainan and Duarte had a really interesting name the first day. But by day two, they kind of ironed it out. This is a rematch, and if you saw the last, I think it was on Who's Number One, might have been on Fight Pass Invitational. I don't remember. I think it was Who's Number One of the earlier Who's Number Ones from a couple of years ago. We saw. By the way, this is the best we've seen J-Rod look.
It is.
Obviously, you're in the ADCC finals, but historically, what's plagued J-Rod in these tournaments has been he's a late starter, he's a slow starter. You kind of got to beat him up a little bit before he like turns on and becomes like. He has so many late, incredible finishes. This entire tournament, from the jump, he was on. I'm curious how much that is from Dima's coaching at B Team, because B Team now has and had a full camp for this, and they actually had, instead of being left to their own devices.
It also could have been something like they somebody like Dima came in and said, hey, you need to do XYZ before your first match. Yeah. Because, like, some people need...
Like Cowboy is an example. He has to spar before he would go out and fight in the UFC, because he was such a slow starter. He had to, like, get going in the back.
You almost have to have a first match in the back before you come out.
And I don't know if they do that for J-Rod, but it was, like, there was a stark difference from both trials J-Rod, 3 trials J-Rods, and last ADCC J-Rod, and this. Like, this dude was on from the jump. And so in the first match with Giancarlo Bordoni, that wasn't an ADCC, we saw Bordoni kind of beat him up hard for most of their match, get on his back, almost choke him, and then J-Rod late came back and almost finished Bordoni. This match wasn't as much like that, but it was, how did Bordoni, was this a points win?
Yeah,
it was a points win at the end.
But we have J-Rod almost win it. I mean, almost like come close to getting points on Giancarlo multiple times, and kind of it was interesting to watch.
I think that Giancarlo wins. Giancarlo was kind of expected to win.
He almost he keeps on kind of getting to north-south on Giancarlo, and Giancarlo just kind of regards very easily. Yeah. But he got past him a bunch of times.
He did.
And a lot farther than I expected him to get past.
We also started to see him use more body lock passing. Not really be successful with, but what his brother does, what Nicky Rod does.
But he doesn't really have the weight to impose
He doesn't, but we'd still see him seem to be super comfortable getting into that position. So I'm curious if that's something that continues to develop as he plays more and as he grapples more, because the contrast from the J-Rod we saw in 2021, 2022 to what we see now, he is now, I think, turning that corner in a way that we didn't know if he would. I think he's still a guy that needs to be the bigger guy, or needs to be a guy with parity, because we saw him against Jonathan Gracie recently. We've seen him against Jacob Couch in matches he kind of gets smushed in. when he was comfortable and when he was first in all of these matches at 88 kilos, this ADCC looked phenomenal. Looked not untouchable, but looked in control of all these matches in a way that we just haven't seen him ever be able to consistently do. And that really excited me for like, not that we were gonna write off J-Rod, but we were curious if he would ever be able to sort of make that transition. And this ADCC, again, getting silver the B team way, like his brother, makes me think that we will potentially see J-Rod as a champion one day, because like he made massive improvements in this ADCC.
He did. And then after that, we had
under 99.
Under 99, we had Rafael Lovato. They're 2 years after he retires.
He retired at ADCC in 2022. And then I do love this, though, because Lovato, I think, had the best reason ever for unretiring. We've talked about it on the show before.
Yeah.
But he was like, look, he's still in the room with like Victor Hugo and Felipe Costa and Sanjay. Like, he's like, I'm still putting in these world championship level camps for these guys. Like, I'm working as hard as I've ever worked in their camp. If I'm going to put in that much work, I might as well just keep competing. I may not be the guy I was then, but if I'm going to put in work like I'm in these camps for these guys, let me just keep doing it.
I mean, we saw him have a great performance for the last 2 days. I mean,
dude, oh my God.
It was amazing.
This is the best Lovato's looked, I want to say, in like 5 years, maybe 6 or 7 years. Like, this is not a return to old, but this is Lovato, I think, understanding his limitations. Like, understanding that his game is not the same as when he was in his 20s. Like, understanding even in his 30s. Like, he's now in his 40s. He's older. He's much slower, but he does have a really great mind for jiu-jitsu. And you saw, like, the way that he dealt with Michael Pixley.
Yeah.
Was like, I just have to kind of frustrate him in the guard. I have to play these matches like I need to win these matches tactically, not necessarily by being able to overwhelm guys, like, with my strength. Like, historically, Lovato's been a really heavy pressure passer, really, like, slow, grindy guy. That wasn't any of these matches he won. He was on the bottom. He was playing guard. He was frustrating guys with, like, the depth of his knowledge in these positions and being able to put his body in the place that it needed to be without really ever overextending himself. Like we saw in, like, the Hulk match, like, where he historically has been getting beaten recently because he seems to overextend himself and get into these, like, firefights. He didn't do any of that this weekend. He just, like, knew what he had to do. He knew what he could do and then went out and did it. So he ended up in the finals versus Kynan, and we kind of went, that's a rough draw for Lovato, because Kynan in the ADCC is a different animal.
Yeah.
Like, that guy, you won 3 of them, man.
Kynan guillotines him.
Looked phenomenal. Kynan guillotined everyone.
Yeah.
He guillotined Cyborg twice in this tournament.
He did.
Guillotines Lovato. Again, not a result that we're really surprised about. Kynan historically has had a phenomenal guillotine. Like, his brown belt guillotine into early black belt was like, that was the thing that he was phenomenal at. It is really cool to see a return to that in a way that we haven't seen. And I'm trying to think the last time we've really seen Kynan lean super heavy into the guillotine. What I liked about all these guillotines is that he would really not overcommit for them all, but he would jump them.
Yeah.
He would snap, he would jump, he would get his legs up high like he used to.
And we had a conversation over the weekend about guillotines and how you need to kind of jump yourself into them. You can't just...
You really have to, if you're going to actually finish someone, especially at this level, with a guillotine, arm in or arm out, you have to really overcommit because you have to get the head low enough. You have to get, guys at this level will pop their head out.
Yeah.
Guys at this level will let it crack a little bit. And, like, you have to be over them to such an extent and be able to squeeze so hard into them that you have to get your legs involved. And we see Kynan do that over and over and over.
And then at plus 99, we had... Philippe, depending on who you're talking to, Pena.
10 years of this, I still don't know I don't know. Pregunta.
Yeah. Versus Luke.
Griffith.
You didn't put the last name on there. I was
like, I just started
typing.
Luke.
Look,
regular notes, Miranda, phenomenal.
And this
they look
was
great.
and this was
you also do on notes usually.
Yeah, and this was the Uno reverse match.
That's my favorite note from the tournament so far, is that because Luke Griffith, who just beat Kynan at Fight Pass Invitational. And we were like, he might be one of the favorites after that submission win over Kynan at Fight Pass Invitational. He might win this whole tournament. He looks phenomenal in his run up through plus 99. He moved to under 99, then moves back up to plus 99. looks phenomenal.
Yeah.
He submitted Big Dan, didn't he?
Yes.
With arm triangle?
He did.
Looked phenomenal this entire run. And then he runs into Felipe Pena. And he gets on Felipe Pena's back early.
Yeah.
And I went, ooh, we just saw him versus Kyle Duarte finish Kyle Duarte. And Gordon, in the interview at the Fight Pass Invitational match, Gordon said something that kind of struck with me. He said in the commentary, he was like, oh, yeah, when Luke gets there, like, he's going to get it. And it made it seem like, oh, yeah, in the room, if he gets there, you get finished.
Yeah.
Like, there's not another option. So he got Pena's back, and I was like, okay, this is crazy. He's going to finish. And then Felipe Pena just decided, like, no, I'm not getting finished. I'm actually, in fact, going to reverse you, then pass and take your back, and then ready to choke you.
Yeah.
Which is just such a wild, like turn of sequence in this, because I thought Luke Griffith was going to take this, and then he gets ready to get choked, like, a minute and a half later.
Yeah.
Like, pretty quickly after. And Pena's back.
Yep.
So, anything else? Sorry, you have any other comments on this one?
No, that's it.
It was wild.
Yeah.
Go back and watch this. This is a fun, like, reversal. I think that Luke, it would not surprise me to have Luke be the champion in 2 years.
Yeah.
Like, he has looked, the level that Griffith is improving is astonishing. Like, has looked so good. He's going to get even more opportunities as silver medalist at ADCC. He's enormous. He's strong. He's fast. He has great hip movement. He's going to be a problem. He is a problem for everyone in this division. Let's talk about Pena's other match that I was at for live. Gordon Ryan did a special second super fight match on day one versus Pena, which was kind of funny because Pena was still in the division.
Yeah.
So Pena was beating guys and then had to fight Gordon. It was a 30-minute match. It went into overtime. It looked almost exactly like their match at Who's Number One. That was the one after the day after Leandro died. Looked almost exactly like the match. It was slow. It was grindy. Eventually, Gordon, in a takedown scramble, gets on top in overtime and scores the 2, rides it out. This was the worst we have seen Gordon look in a long time. I think just because of like the shade of his body, his skin color, he's super sick right now because he didn't finish Yuri either in the second super fight today, the real super fight. And this is like he looked unwell.
Yeah.
In like a weird, clammy, like I have the flu kind of way that was weird. Beat Pena by 2 points. I'm happy that they got an opportunity to have this match. It was not a great showing from either guy. It is so interesting to me that other guys have had matches with Pena where they win or they don't. They've had competitive matches with Pena. Gordon has this weird stylistic matchup with Pena where the matches are always, he just gets stuck in the bear trap, willingly or unwillingly, that Pena has with that half guard, like variation of half guard that traps Gordon's leg up in his thigh. And then minutes of the match are there because Gordon doesn't want to tech out because if you turn, it gives your back up. And Pena doesn't want to let it go because then Gordon can start passing. They line up in such a weird way. I don't know if I want to see the match again in the near future, but with how good Gordon looks versus everyone else, it's so weird that he just struggles with Pena so much. He beat Pena, finally gets a win over Pena at ADCC, but man, is it a weird kind of matchup. So let's talk about the other Gordon. I don't really have much other than like he looked really unwell Saturday.
Yeah.
Sunday with a real super fight with Yuri Samos, who won the 2022 Absolute. We haven't really seen anything from Yuri the last 2 years.
Not really.
Has he done a match?
Yeah, he did UFC Invitational. I wanna say,
Yeah.
at some point.
But is that the only thing we've seen him on?
I'm not really sure. He might have done something else at that point.
Very inactive. Shows up, and then Gordon doesn't look amazing in this match, but still puts up 21 points on Yuri. He does the thing that I love the ADCC allows, point racking, where Gordon sits in a passing position, very, very slowly advancing his position after he gets to the ground for like 6 minutes.
Yeah.
And then when points come, boom, immediately passes to mount, flattens out Yuri enough to get the points, and then 3 times puts his foot back in the half guard, waits 3 seconds, takes his foot out of the half guard. waits 2 seconds, puts his foot back in the half guard.
I think it's annoying as hell.
I love it.
I
I
hate
love
it.
the ADCC does it. He did it to Andre Galvao.
I mean, you can do the same thing in IBJJF, and I've had 20 points put on me that way.
From the
And
guard,
I think
though.
that's why.
Yeah, for the guard, yeah.
Well, yeah.
But he does it in ADCC.
Yeah.
And I love that he did it. And then he proceeds to, like, move around Yuri. He gets his back twice. He almost Kimuras Yuri. Yuri is never able to pass Gordon, but it looks like that Gordon gets a little tired in a way that we don't usually see Gordon get. Trying to put away Yuri. Again, he still wins 21-0.
Yeah.
Like an astonishingly dominant performance. Didn't submit him. Was unable to submit him. Now it's interesting because we all expected a pretty fast sub from Gordon, or as fast as Gordon wanted to have it. Multiple times he would get something and be unable to finish Yuri. And I don't want to take away from Yuri and how good Yuri is in his submission defense, but it looked more like Gordon was really off than Yuri was like having a phenomenal tournament day. And so I'm really curious now if we get the match with Nicky Rod, if Gordon can get his health, or if Gordon will be healthy enough to basically be able to have that match and have it be interesting and not be this weird caveat match of, well, he was really sick. And so, do you have any thoughts on the match, Miranda?
No.
Yeah, it
wasn't anything
Gordon
that
won
I was
another match.
excited about.
And we kind of don't know where Gordon's at right now because he looked not in the form we've ever seen him in at ADCC. So.
Okay, we're going to move on to the women's finals.
Yes.
And then we'll go over absolute and we'll be done for the night because we'll cover the fun matches at another, because we're going on an hour already.
All right, let's rock it.
So
let's go women's matches.
Let's do women's matches, absolute finals, and then roll out for the night.
Fantastic.
Okay?
Let's do it.
So women's, we had under 55. We had Adele Forentino.
I'm going to get her last name wrong.
Pull it up.
For Adele.
When I look at it, I can
you can pronounce it correctly?
Yeah, it makes more sense when I look at it.
I'm at 55.
It's Adele. Nope. What?
No.
Anyway, we had Adele from Australia.
Yes.
Go against Bia Basilio. And Bia just, I guess forgot that we have Adele that likes to armbar and mirror lock people from the guard.
It was... BS came out super aggressive. She was kind of being chippy. She was kind of hitting Adele a little bit here and there. And then, like, I think was trying to impose her game. Like, impose, like, I'm the big woman here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to put you, like, down. And then gets into the guard, stands up with Adele in the guard, and, like, posts super hard on her hips, almost like she's going to open the guard, but didn't do any balance. And then Adele just goes, cool, I have this overhook. This is the thing that I am the best at. This is what I won a bunch of trials matches with. And if you've watched her other matches, which we've watched and covered a lot of her matches, this is the thing that she does. She slides down with the mirror lock and just shoulder locks Bianca Basilio. And we all kind of in the stands went, well, that's what she does. Why would you give her access to your arm that way? Like, it was a weird performance. But Adele is phenomenal at this technique and phenomenal at these collection of techniques from the guard.
And she went and armbarred everybody, on the way there.
Yeah.
So
she was taking arms all day. So that's, she's the champion. It's awesome, I think, to have an Australian champion. I love that her nickname is Daddy. We were getting a big kick out of that in the stands of like I want to start a Daddy chant because I think it's a great nickname for like an under 55 kilogram woman. It's imposing. It's great. And then... Yeah, she's the champion now. And for anything else on the technique?
She's the first Australian champion
ever. Which I love. That's awesome that it's a female champion in the new women's weight class. They're all new technically, but under 55 kilos. And then let's talk about her absolute match because we're already talking about her. She in the absolute
goes against Bia Mosquito.
The other Bia.
The other Bia.
And then scores. Bia takes 2 penalties for inactivity, kind of backing away and like being a little passive. And
never really I wouldn't say she's ever a passive person, but she was backing. She was backing up because she knew that if she engaged or she gave an arm, it was going to get taken.
Adele is going to do what Adele does and take your shit. And then gets 2 penalties, and Adele's like, cool, I'm up now. And then Adele goes, that thing you were worried about, I'm just going to get it anyway. Yeah. Beautiful sequence into a triangle with like about 5.5 minutes left. And we all kind of went, well... She's up 2 negative points for Bia, essentially. she can just hold this triangle technically and
Yeah.
force Bia to escape. And then she just did that
Yeah.
for 5 or 6 minutes. And we were kind of wondering, like, at the 4-minute mark, I'm like, well, does Mosquito just, like, overcommit and try to extend? But we knew she wasn't doing that because
Yeah.
Adele was like, yeah, I'm going to take the arm. Like, if you try to yank out of this, there's not a shot on this earth where I do not take that arm.
Yeah.
And Bia just, like, waited for her to get tired, and Adele never did.
Yeah.
Adele just went, no, I'm going to be the champion. I'm going to be the 55 kilogram, the smallest women's weight class, and the absolute champion. And wins via essentially two negatives for Mosquito.
Yeah.
And she's now the double champion for ADCC. I have no idea who they're going to bring in for a super fight. Because historically, when a super fight is established and there is not a champion, they bring in someone else. They did it with, like, Dean Lister. They've done it for some other people. Historically, I am really curious who they're going to bring in for 2026.
Yeah,
I kind of wonder, like, I don't really want to see it, but, like, it would be a really interesting, like, hey, let's put the woman who's double and a half your size. Adele could do it. I'm astonished with her performance. It's awesome to have an Australian champion. And this is my comment about the trials. Maybe the Australian trials aren't the worst trials. Like, we're getting phenomenal female champions out of it. Like, maybe that region is really, it's mostly a Brazil show, an America show, but Australia's putting out some really phenomenal athletes as of recently.
And we move on to the under 65. We had Helena Cravar, which we all knew was going to be there.
Yep.
Versus you have Anna
Carolina Vieira. Baby Vieira.
Baby Vieira.
Mm-hmm. Cravar pulls.
Yeah.
And if you pull an ADCC final.
And she pulls twice.
Mm-hmm. And we were curious if they were going to call it the second one because they were mucking with the points on the board.
Yeah.
They weren't showing negatives until after
She was
points.
kind of on her butt, and then she kind of gets off of her butt, but she never really, like, fully stands up. She does, like, a half, like, squat.
Yeah.
And then she kind of walks around for a little bit, and then she puts her butt back down.
And
so it was, like, a weird one.
It's long enough to be a pull.
Yeah.
And she does that twice. And Anna Carolina, like, knows the game.
Yeah, and towards the end of the match, Anna Carolina passes her guard and gets on top of her.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if she gets the full mount. I think she gets the full mount at the very end.
They had points for her, and
Yeah.
they took a point. It was frustrating as the audience because they were moving the points around.
Yeah.
In weird orders and ways, and they had 6 points, and she had 5 points at one point. But at the end of this, she does take a points win,
and she ends up on top.
Yeah, she does take a points win over Helena Cravar. I think Helena Cravar will be a champion, but she does have a couple of wrinkles in her game. Like, we've seen this guard pulling thing has cost her a trials, has cost her a world championship now, and, like, her wrestling is looking better, but this does go, yep, she definitely still needs to develop her wrestling more if she wants to consistently be able to be a champion fighter. So let's move on to the under 65 kilogram.
No, plus 65 kilograms.
Plus Natalia DeJesus versus Rafaela Geddes. This was a points win for Geddes.
Yeah.
Rafaela DeJesus surprised us a lot with an early win over Amy Campo.
Natalia. Isn't it Natalie?
What did I say? Natasha?
Yeah.
Yeah, Natalia.
It's
DeJesus.
Yeah.
Yeah, Natalia. And looked great through this entire tournament. Geddes is extremely hard to deal with. Is one of the 3 most aggressive women in this tournament.
She is.
And really that aggression, I think, is what wins her this match overall. She's just in front. She's on top. She's putting herself in the scoring position. The takedown?
Yes.
I think was a takedown here that wins her this match. And that, Geddes will just overwhelm you. And that's what we see here.
Super aggressive and super pushing forward at all times.
Mm-hmm. Anything else on this?
Nope.
Overall, so we've got both super fights at CJI, the finals for that, the finals for the divisions, the finals for the absolutes.
Yeah.
Are we forgetting anything else major?
Absolute final. Did we cover?
Oh, we didn't cover Kynan. We talked about it briefly.
Yeah.
Kynan, Duarte, Cyborg, man.
Yeah.
Cyborg had a hell of a run. When we talk about more ADCC matches a couple days here for the next show, we'll break down more of, like, the fun performances that he had. Kynan, Duarte, guillotined Cyborg twice. Once in the division, semifinals, right?
Yeah.
And then once in the absolute finals. Cyborg was the 2013 ADCC absolute champion. 11 years later, is almost the absolute champion again. But Kynan Duarte has a phenomenal guillotine, knows how to do it, does it the Cyborg in the same way he did in the division, and Kynan Duarte becomes your absolute champion. We are now going to see him versus Gordon in 2026. Again, pending that Gordon remains the absolute champion and doesn't decide to like not defend that, which historically has been done a lot. Other than that, Galvao was the first guy to defend for a long time.
Now that he has the most medals in ADCC history, he could retire.
Yeah,
and no one's really close to him.
Well, I think everyone's close. I think the match for Pena gives him that.
Yeah.
I think 6 is the.
No, he said they said he has the most.
He does have the most now.
Now he currently does.
But I think. Oh yeah, and no, everyone else is retired.
No one else is close enough.
Duarte's getting there. Yeah. Bodoni's getting there. Baby's like, guys are getting there. I think Kaino will be the first guy that's really in big contention for that. Yeah. But again, neither would really surprise me at this point.
No.
But overall, 3 phenomenal days of events. It is getting very late. I have a flight super early tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Probably not. I got to leave in about 5.5 hours from this recording, so hopefully the show actually can get up in time. We will cover all of the fun matches, like the Thai matches, the Nibar matches with Pato and Charles Negromonte, Levi,
all the fun
Thai.
stuff that we don't need to go through right now, so that we can end and we can go to sleep.
Yep. All right, Miranda, any closing thoughts on the events?
No, that's it.
All right, as always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, my co-host,
Miranda.
And we have the Grappling Rewind, so Matt, where it is, stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.